Hey everyone, for those of you that are already joining us, we're just going to give it another minute and we will get rolling with the presentation in yeah, just another minute. Thanks for being here. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Lundy with the Sawtooth Avalanche Center, and thank you so much for coming to our next edition of the Digging Deeper series. As most of you know, we do this every other Wednesday throughout the winter. These Digging Deeper presentations are supported by the Friends, and this one, the Friends of the Avalanche Center, that does a ton of work to support the Avalanche Center's mission and a lot of our educational programs. So we appreciate their support, and this one in particular is underwritten by Black Diamond Equipment. And I'm here tonight with some folks from OnX Backcountry, and OnX is a huge supporter of avalanche safety and forecasts across the United States, including ours. They're one of our flagship, or one of the Friends flagship sponsors this year, so we're super excited to have their support. OnX Backcountry is a GPS navigation and mapping app. It's designed specifically for the backcountry traveler. So it's equipped with avalanche forecasts, slope angle layers, weather station data, and more stuff like that. And you're going to hear all about it tonight. Digital mapping applications have become a mainstay for me personally in my trip planning and backcountry navigation. It's pretty hard to imagine not having that stuff. And I'm excited to learn even more about it tonight. I'm going to give a brief intro to those folks from OnX here that are joining us, and then I'm going to turn the show over to them. Our main presenter tonight is Mark Smiley. Mark's an IFMGA guide who climbs and skis around the world. He's currently based in Revelstoke, and he is an OnX ambassador, and he hasn't carried a paper map or compass in his pack since 2008, and I think I'm right there with him. He has a number of video tutorial courses that you can check out on his website, mtnsense.com, mountainsense.com. And then from OnX Maps, we have Aaron Bosworth, and he works on the Backcountry app and improving content through community activation and partnerships. And we also have Justin Hoteling, who is an avid backcountry skier and ski mountaineer based out of Western Montana. And he's a customer experience specialist and helps provide education and technical support for OnX users. So I bet a bunch of you have been to these Digging Deepers before, and if you haven't, you're probably pretty familiar with Zoom by this point. But we definitely encourage questions during the presentation. You can add them in the chat, and when the time's right, I can ask whoever's presenting. Also, feel free to raise your hand, and then you can ask them in person. So either one of those approaches works. And then we'll have a Q&A period at the very end of the presentation too. But definitely feel free to ask questions during the presentation. Makes it more interactive and fun for everybody. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the OnX folks. Thank you guys for being here.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, and thank you, to the Sawtooth Avalanche Center and the Friends group as well, just for having us here today. We're really excited about this presentation and getting to work more with you guys. So we've got a couple things for you tonight. Obviously, the main course here is going to be our presentation. But basically, we're going to be talking to you guys about how we go about planning a ski tour. And we're going to be using Mark's plethora of experience as well as Aaron's knowledge and all the content to really be going over that with you guys and how we kind of analyze some of that avalanche safety during that planning. And also, we'll be showing this again a little bit later after the main presentation. But we are doing a special bonus for the Sawtooth Avalanche Center. So if you guys use this QR code to make any purchases tonight, or to use the 1 month free trial that we're offering you guys, 20% of that will go to, 20% of our proceeds from that will go back to the Sawtooth Avalanche Center as well. So without any more blabbering from me, I'm going to pass it over to Aaron.
Awesome, Justin. Thank you so much. Let me share my screen here real quick. Cool. Well, it's nice to be here, Chris. Thanks for that introduction. And yeah, just wanted to reiterate, like, we are so grateful for the work that all the Avalanche centers do across the country. And it's been wonderful to partner with Sawtooth and get some feedback from them as well on some of the things we're doing in Backcountry. And I just want to say, like, we're relatively newer to this space. Like, OnX Maps has been creating GPS navigation apps for almost 10 years, and it goes back further than that, like prior to the app space. Most of you probably have heard of OnX Hunt. We also have OnX Off-Road, which is focused on motorized, including snowmobile, and then Backcountry, which is really focused on the human-powered space. And we have a trail mode and a more hiking, trail running, mountain biking oriented, and then a snow mode, which we're going to be talking about more today. But we're really keen on the notion of built for buy. So we're like trying to engage the right partners to get feedback and input, and not just going to market with, hey, this is how we think it should be. We're looking to partners to help inform us and bounce ideas off ambassadors like Mark and partners like Sawtooth Abbey Center. And so super grateful for the community that's kind of coming up around it. So Mark and I are going to co-host the evening. I'm going to do my best to drive within the app itself, and Mark has more of some use case examples, and so we'll be just kind of bouncing off each other a bit. And yeah, just to give a little more background on myself, like, I've been working on Backcountry, OnX Backcountry, since we launched it over a year ago. And I have quite a bit of backcountry ski and ski mountaineer experience as well. Grew up in the Cascades and now live in California and ski throughout the Sierra. And it's been a rough month and a half out here, but great to see a little bit of snowfall over the last couple of days. And hope to make it out to your mountain range sometime soon too. And with that, I think we'll jump into the app. So we're going to be looking at the web map, which is desktop or laptop oriented. When you're planning a tour, or just starting to kind of investigate terrain or a zone in a mountain range, it's pretty helpful to have a larger screen to be able to look at things. So you can pretty much do most of the same things in the mobile app in the phone. And what's great is that the data like transfers over. So if you start to mark up your map in web app, draw routes or mark waypoints, all the information you save in web app will just transfer directly over to the mobile app as well. So you don't have to worry about losing any of that data. But yeah, most of the night we'll be here. So when you first come into OnX Backcountry, you set up your account. It's going to take you into map view, and you can choose to either toggle between trail mode here or snow mode. We're going to stay in snow mode for tonight. And then there'll be a couple layers that will show up underneath that. And the ones we've really prioritized, like initially in this season, have to do with avalanche mitigation. So we have an avalanche forecast layer, which we'll toggle that on in a bit, as well as slope angle layer. And then you can also choose to turn on different activity types. There's discovery mode in OnX Backcountry that is set up essentially like a guidebook, where all these purple pins on the map are ski tours or ski descents that contributors have helped bring into the product. Quite a few of the ski content comes from Beacon guidebooks. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that company, Andy Slavic. And we're really trying to take the approach with backcountry skiing to have an authoritative voice with the ski lines that we include. It's that's not the case everywhere on the map right now, but we're going back and trying to reevaluate areas where, you know, we want to put the authoritative voice there and only point people to ski zones that you know, really come from someone or you know, a group of skiers that have a lot of experience in that range. So keep that in mind if you start exploring that feature. The other thing I want to point out, and we're going to be honing in on the Tetons today, and Mark has a line we're going to be looking at, the skillet that many of you are probably familiar with, maybe some of you skied. And so we'll focus in on the Tetons, but want to show you a couple other features on the base map here. So we have, let me move my, I've got to move my zoom. There we go. Okay, so we have a map legend here, and a few different layers you can toggle between for the base map. There's the satellite view, which we're all familiar with. Hybrid, which combines satellite and topo. So when you get in closer to the range, see the contour lines, and then get a more traditional topo. And you can toggle back and forth between these. There's also a legend here in case you're wondering what some of that, you know, these different markups on the map are. Some of the colors might be new, and so you'll see purple in the Tetons for the national park land area, or yellow for BLM, and green for Forest Service. But you know, when I'm planning a ski tour, one of the views I like to stay in is the 3D map view. It's pretty powerful on what you can do in that. And I often stay in satellite, but sometimes I'll toggle back and forth between satellite and topo there. And you know, by just holding down control and then using your mouse, you can tilt and pan and zoom, and it's pretty neat, you know, like how much visualization you can do in 3D. The other features, like feature set here, there's tools up in the upper right. So drawing a line is essentially you know, drawing a route, and you can click to form any, you know, direction or switchbacks or whatever. And it just to show you real quick, like, oh, whoops, as you're doing that, you know, if you're scanning up a hill, once you save it, once you save the track, you can, the elevation profile will show up, and you can scrub through it and, you know, see exactly how far and what the elevation is. You'll see on the map itself, it's showing you, like, you know, the elevation there. Cool. And then there's an area tool where if you wanted to mark off, you know, like this is just like a danger zone or waterfalls, you can mark off an area. And same kind of thing, you know, you can style it, save it, and just, you know, keeps that front of mind. I'll delete that out. Doesn't distract us. And then dropping waypoints, you can do that a few different ways. You can do it here, or you can just click on the map, and wherever you clicked, you can add a waypoint and style it in any way you want here. There's like cornice, slide path, camp, you know, all kinds of options. And there's a couple other cool things you can do, like add a photo to the waypoint. You can also turn on wind direction for the waypoint, and we'll show you that in a little bit. I think that's pretty much the main. Oh, excuse me, and offline maps. Let me hop in there real quick. So I took the liberty of building an offline map for the Grand Teton area, just to show you. It's this green outline here. But if you wanted to build a new one, go to new offline map, and you can drag around anywhere. You've got 3 different resolutions: 5, 10, 150, and it's probably more helpful to stay in 2D when you're doing that. But yeah, once you save it, you know, give it a name, So it'll store in your offline maps, and then you don't have to have cell service to get the top resolution when you're navigating, which I'm sure everyone who's used a mapping app is familiar with that. One thing that's kind of cool, like you can bounce between your offline maps in Backcountry, and just get around the map really easily that way. And everything saves here underneath my content. So your waypoints, tracks, areas, routes, and you can store things. You can cluster up like multiple waypoints and multiple tracks into a folder and save that and give it a name. And then you can share all this content within anyone else that has OnX Backcountry. So like if you go into your waypoints and select one of those, share waypoint, and I can share this out to Mark. I can send him a text or send it through email, and then once he opens it, it'll automatically load that in OnX Backcountry, take him right there. Cool. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover as like an intro, and then let me go back to.
Right on. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, Mark, no, I'll hand it over to you.
So hey everybody, thanks for being here. I just wanted to give you a case study of how I use the tool and how powerful it is. Just having a map and a real GPS device on your cell phone, like this is an actual GPS device. It's just a total game changer, because it's like you can just find where you are and be there immediately. Say locate me, and you're the little blue dot, and then if you have a route line created, then you can know where to go, left, right, or center. And so unfortunately, I've never skied in the Sawtooths. I've climbed at Elephant's Perch, but I have not been there to ski yet. So we're gonna have to slum it here and use a Grand Teton example. So I apologize for that. But if you haven't skied the Skillet and you want to, this will give you some beta. And please feel free to put something in the chat or raise your hand or whatever, and we can just stop at that point and answer that question while it's fresh in your mind, and go from there. Okay, so when I'm getting ready to ski a line, the first step is I'm going to just Google the GPX file. So all GPS devices, whether it's your watch or an app or a Garmin, whatever, or, Apple product or any kind of thing, the file is a GPX file. And so it could also be a KML file, but GPX is like kind of more the universal one. It's like saying a photo file is a JPEG file. Or JPEG is, everyone knows JPEG is a photo files. So GPX device. So I'll Google Mount Moran skillet.gpx and see if I get lucky. And if I do, then I'm going to save that file and then import it here to my content and see it on in 3D. Okay. And this is where I think OnX is pretty cool. When I first heard about it, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, it was like, oh, now I don't have to use Google Earth. I can do both in the same thing. That's awesome. And so you can import that GPX device or a GPX file, and then you get this route line on the mountain, and you can see you know, you give it scale. And for me, it's just more intuitive than looking at topo lines. And it's like, oh, these topo lines are far away and these topo lines are close, you know, but my mind doesn't think in millimeters, you know, but in here, as Aaron's flying around, I can be like, oh yeah, okay, that top part is the business, and the bottom part opens up into that apron, and you know, blah blah blah. So this is actually I skied this last spring, and that's my ground truth, where I actually walked and the phone pinged that spot and laid that line on the map. And then you can see at the bottom, Aaron, if you go to the shore's edge, the mountainside shore edge, because when you're tracking, it's pretty heavy on the battery. And so once I got back down to, or no, it looks like I started tracking at the water's edge. So this is the ascent, and then the line back is the descent. And that's this kind of a thing I'll do for a big day. This was, I don't remember how long it was, but let's call it 10 hours or something. If you're tracking that whole time, that will smoke your battery, especially in the cold. And so my phone is my safety device. If I need to call in 911 or something, I don't want to be, I want to be a conscious user of that. So I'm keeping it warm. I'm keeping the tracking only when I need to.
Mark, I think you beat yourself at 9.5 hours there.
Oh, okay.
Your track.
Nice. What did I say? 10?
Yep.
The lake was pretty cruiser that day. We were able to skate ski. And this little side note, this one, my buddy at the top was like, do you think we can single pitch this? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, like go all from the top to the lake without stopping. And I was like, oh, no way. It's 6,000 feet. And so then the ego kicked in, and we actually did it. And it was 15 minutes from the top to the lake, and our legs were destroyed. So that down track is, there's not too many wiggles in the down track. So,
Hey, Mark,
okay.
if I could just jump in real quick. We had a question from the audience. So like you have this route that you're showing here from your day on the skillet, and Aaron had mentioned like you could share that with anybody. The question was, can you share it with somebody who doesn't have OnX maps? What are some of the options there?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can export the GPX file, but you can't share, you wouldn't be able to share it directly like from app to a different app like Gaia.
Cool, but yeah, most apps will import a GPX file just fine, right? Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Right on. Okay, so then back to this like workflow. We've got the GPX file, we've imported it, we're looking around, if it's a really big line, we could say, I'm going to camp here, or I'm going to have lunch here, or this is a definitive turnaround point. Another thing I'll be doing sometimes when I'm planning a day is like to know when I'm getting into avalanche terrain, because decision fatigue is a real thing. And if I'm, if I'm like nervous, the first, when I first click into my skis, but I'm cruising through non-avalanche terrain, I don't need to be nervous. And then once I, that slope angle pings, and I'm getting on a slope that is steeper than, some say 25, some say 30 degrees, or if I'm in the run out zone of something like that, then my brain goes, did I do a beacon and check? Are we all beeping here? It's time to, put on our game face, because we're in harm's way now. Different days, it'll be different types of things, but I think, it's good to be cautious, but it's there's a spectrum, and overcautious equals decision fatigue, and probably picking up a different sport than backcountry skiing ultimately, because it's stressful. If you don't know when to lever that up and lever that down. So the slope angle tool is a pretty good way for you to see how steep things are. Okay. And the benefit is that you can say, hey, right here, I am on, this slope is in this range. I think they're 5-degree increments or so.
Yep.
And your bread and butter slab avalanche terrain is 30 to 45 degrees. And so those are, I think, like yellow, orange, and red or something like that. And then you get into more the NAR and it gets darker, like purple and blue and whatnot.
Yeah. And there's that, you can see that scale at the top, and there's an opacity slider so you can, tweak that a little bit if you want to see more of the mountain. So I can play with that.
So, I mean, that's a great tool. Now, the caveat to it is that, back to this skillet example, if it's a really gnarly avalanche conditions, and Aaron, toggle on the slope angle, and I'm cruising up from the lake, if there's a big avalanche, I am still, that whole time, I'm in an avalanche path. And yet I could be standing on a perfectly flat slope, but I'm still in the alpha angle is what it's called, or the run out zone, or the, avalanche path. And that doesn't mean, so you can't use slope angle as like, I'm in the green, therefore I'm good. You have to be looking up. And again, it would have to be pretty nasty avalanche conditions for a natural avalanche or another skier to come down and, cause an avalanche to sweep you away in the run out zone when you're standing in a green. But you can't write it off. Okay. And so that's the one holdup on the slope angle thing, but it's a great tool. And just the other day, actually, 2 days ago, we were doing a top down run, and we turned on the slope angle, and it's like, I think that's a cliff, but I'm not sure, and we hadn't been on this slope before and couldn't see where we were. And right along the center of the slope was the darkest color slope angle. And it was like, yep, there's a cliff there. We should go, harder skiers left and around. And so, that's just a top of mind example where it helped out. And then when we look back up the slope, it was like, yep, there's the cliff band. So, okay. So back to the flow here. Once I get that, I could also tweak it. So, Aaron, let's say we got this. Can we can you show people how to change the dashes to a solid line on the?
Oh yeah, of course. So
I personally just don't like the dashes. I feel like I like a solid line. I'm a solid line guy.
Matt, Mark, I might not be able to edit it because it was your track.
Okay.
Actually,
Gotcha.
Justin's nodding his head.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would need to come in that way from you.
So let's just say that like you didn't like where I went up here. You could, change that or amend it and say like, you would draw in your own route and say like alternate way or something like that. And I would upload that to my phone as well. And so that it's like, there's plenty of times where one up track will be totally fine in certain conditions. And then, okay, now we need to take exactly. Or so then you can be climbers right of where I went there. And you can see like the dude I was skiing this with did not want a boot pack. So we switched backed up the whole thing, but ruined the track, but I wasn't breaking trails. So I wasn't whining. So I'll put all those in to the phone and make sure that this is the critical part right here. You have to have the map offline, because if you don't have the map offline, it just ends up like a Garmin watch where you just have a gray line on nothing. and you can see where you are in relation to that gray line, but it's barbaric compared to having an actual map, and then having a satellite imaged map. That's the next level up, and it depends on the resolution of what the specific location is. Like if you're in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, the resolution is going to be lower. But if you're, say, in, I don't know, the Alps, or I don't know, on a glacier, you can actually see the crevasses in the glacier and be like, okay, if I go far right and around, that would be safer. And so the satellite images are key. So have those offline, and I always double check that everything's offline by shutting down the app, putting my phone in airplane mode, turning the app back on, and then seeing if I can access all of that content. Because there's been plenty of times where I screwed that up, it didn't finish downloading, or I just didn't click the button, or some other user error or techie error of some sort, where I get out there. Actually, I did a whole Peru trip and I didn't have Alpamayo on my phone. And I was pretty bummed about that because I thought I did have it on my phone, and the Wi-Fi down there was awful. And I was halfway, I was up the trail, and it was like, oh, I don't have what I need. And so I just had the little red line and no map. And then after that, are we doing good on questions? No questions yet. Okay. After that, I'm kind of good to go, from a tech standpoint. And well, and I guess this, this is a new feature, and Aaron, maybe you can talk more about the Avalanche forecast part of it, which would be the next step in my planning.
Yeah, let me chat on that for just a minute. So Mark did a great job of talking through the slope angle. Another one that's super critical, and this is more on certainly the front end. You want to, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but look at the Avalanche forecasts before we're going out. So you can toggle that layer on, and let me just flip into 2D real quick. So Backcountry has piped in Avalanche forecasts for all of the 24 Avi centers across the country. And the Bridger Teton one is showing up here. It's currently moderate. So you can pan around the map if you want. What are we looking like in the Sawtooths? Ooh, a little more user friendly over there today. And down in Colorado, we got some considerable and high danger. So if you want to get into the details of the forecast, you can just click on the zone anywhere in the yellow. And you get some kind of basic high level info there. But down at the bottom is the forecast link. And Justin, are you seeing the forecast now? And Mark?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, that's working.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not going to go through like reading the forecast. I think most of you probably know, but it's a quick way just to get access to the great work that Sawtooth Avi and all the other forecasters are doing, and it's easily accessible through the app there, through that layer.
Cool. Aaron, I had a quick question for myself personally. When you do the offline maps, when you save a map for offline use, I assume that it also saves the slope angle shading, and does it also save the avalanche forecast layer?
Slope angle shading, it does. I don't actually know about avalanche forecast layer, because you could do like I guess it could be like half in, half out potentially. I don't think you can pull that up, but we can play around with it when I get on mobile app. I think you need to be online though.
Okay.
Justin, I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, so the Avalanche forecast won't be available offline because we're pulling that data live every 15 minutes for updates. So if you guys are checking that kind of at the trailhead, or before you leave town, you'll be good to go. If you're going out on a multi-day trip, you're gonna have to watch the weather yourself, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I'll do with that is I'll just, bring up whatever forecast it is, both a weather forecast and the Avi forecast, and screen grab it. And then it'll just be in my my photo reel. Like I'll do the 10-day forecast, and 3 days really out is about as good as it gets. But and then I don't have to remember it as much, or give me something to do when I'm trying to fall asleep at night. So cool. So then
And Mark, that's a really good point. We should maybe run through weather as well. Doesn't have to be right this minute.
yeah, let's do it.
But yeah, so obviously you want to be looking at multiple data resources and data points when you're planning. The Avi forecast, and then weather forecast, and different features of the weather, and OnX Backcountry is aggregated all that info in a really helpful place. So with weather, you can pull it up a few different ways. You can either click on the weather icon down in the bottom right, and down there it's telling you wind and temp. If you click on that, it's going to pull the weather forecast, the point forecast for like where your crosshairs are in the middle of the screen, and you can see that little sun weather icon show up. And you can scroll through current, or the weekly forecast, hourly. If you're interested in knowing moon phases, it's got all that there. And this is from Weather Underground. And you can literally pull a forecast from, a point forecast from anywhere, which is pretty handy. As far as like what we're really concerned with and honing in on for ski touring, wind, obviously, snowfall, precip, and temps. And so you can get all that here. There isn't any snow, it looks like, in the hourly for the Tetons right now, but that would show up right here. Let's see if anything coming in. Actually, a better way to do that. So the other way to grab weather is to drop, just click the map, and you get these options here. You can drop a waypoint when you do that, or you can look at weather. So I'm going to scroll down and look at, today, no snow in the forecast. Tomorrow, oh, there we go. Got a little bit. Trace coming in tomorrow. And then, of course, we'd want to be paying attention to wind in the context of where wind loading might be happening. And you have all of that information here as well.
So practically speaking, I think where weather plays into my equation, midwinter, like right now, it's, do I wear long johns or not, for example? Is it inverted or not? Is it going to be, sunscreen day? Do I need goggles? I'm trying to get my pack as light as I can. And if I just bring everything every day for every situation, my pack is going to be huge. And if I'm doing 1,000-foot day, that's great. Who cares? But if I'm going to try to go bigger, then it matters greatly. And so there isn't a blanket statement, there's not a blanket user. You guys, you figure out what works for you, and that's great. But for me, the weather dictates how big my pack is going to be. Colder it is, heavier my pack is. And maybe the shorter amount of time I'm going to try to spend out there. Or maybe if the high is -10, I'm probably not going to go for the skillet because I don't want to get frostbite, for example. But a big line like this is typically more of a springtime thing. So now we're shifting from midwinter mindset, how much clothes do I bring, to a spring mindset, which we're getting into in the next weeks, month or so, of what time do I need to wake up in order to hit that perfect corn cycle. And that's a game that is fun and frustrating to play. But the weather, those highs and low temperatures are going to play into that. The clouds are going to play into that. The What was the other one that I was just thinking? Oh, the sunrise is going to play into that, of when perfect corn is going to be. And also, it is the objective east facing, west facing. So if you're going to ski, I want you guys to ski the skillet this spring. Let's just leave it at that. Let's just assume that. And this is the, oh, I'm drawing on my screen. That's hilarious. Aaron, if you can zoom into the handle, the top part.
Yep.
Yeah, so that is the steepest, and it's also due east. Okay, so it gets the first morning sun and it warms up the soonest. And so wet slides in the springtime are a concern when you're dropping into this thing in the steepest part. So I'm going to be planning my day to overcome the crux, which is the steepest and warming the fastest part, which happens to be on this objective, the top. And so I need to probably, in that scenario, I'm going to add to my pack a base layer and a big puffy jacket, because I'm going to be sweating like crazy getting up this thing. And then I want to get to the top before it melts, or before corn 30, and when the snow is perfectly corned up and edgeable, not too firm, not too soft. And in order to wait comfortably, I want to take off my sweaty base layer, put on that dry one, all my other jackets, and then hang out, as opposed to sleeping in a little bit and being too late. Now I'm okay. So that's where the weather really plays in. It does not play into slope stability in the midwinter as much. I mean, you could get some like rapid warming or something, and then that's going to be, a concern from an avalanche standpoint, but that's not something I'm looking at the night before and making a decision, looking at the weather forecast from a snow stability standpoint. Now I could have a general trend like, oh, yesterday it was, 18 degrees, and tomorrow the high is 38 degrees. Now that's something that would be on my radar, because you're going above freezing, or it's been cloudy this whole time and now the sun is popping and it's, going to be a lot warmer. That would be on my radar. But the point is that weather is more of what's in my backpack than it is this going to avalanche or not, which I think is the pressing question that a lot of people ask or think about anyway.
Dave, if it's okay for me to interject, it was a question from the audience, and not super related to what we're talking about right at the very moment, but just thought I'd throw this in there. They were asking if it's possible to toggle some of the different features you see on the map. Like, for example, can you turn off the summer trails? So that's not so much, clutter on the map if it's not of interest to you for your ski planning.
Yeah, that's a great question, and we've gotten quite a bit of feedback around that. It's in the works. You can't turn off these trails down here right now, but we've heard that, and it's coming.
Cool, that's great.
One other thing to point out about weather, and it's related to our waypoint functionality. So I threw a waypoint on Moran Summit, the top, near the top of the skillet. And if you were curious in knowing you can really do this anywhere. It's like a weather point forecast. Drop your waypoint, and then once you've saved the waypoint, there's an option to see what the current wind direction is. And so it's pulling wind and weather data from sensors in the vicinity. And when you turn that on, hit apply, it's gonna stay live like that. So it's saying it's 8 miles per hour out of the west up there, and you can get that information anywhere, down at the base of the lake, and really anywhere you drop a waypoint. So pretty handy to know, both in terms of potential wind loading and also just like what is the wind chill and or how cold is it up there. Definitely wanted to point that one out.
Cool. So what else? I mean, let's see. All right, we got about 10 more minutes. Do you guys have questions about this part of the process or a different part of the process? Yeah, maybe shoot them in that or ask them live. I don't know. I mean, what's great about this technology is that it makes it so simple. Like if we were having this panel discussion about how to do this in 1985, you'd have to have a friend at NASA or something to get this level of information. And now in 2022, it's like, you can just kind of assume that it's, I don't, I'm just like, I'm just shocked at like how easy it is. And therefore we don't have to like, it's like draw the line, save it to your phone, out the door, it's pretty sweet. Oh, and that actually makes me think of, so I love doing this kind of stuff. And I made 50 route lines for the Grand Teton National Park of up and down, and put like, your rope needs to be this long and the max slope angle is this. And it took, I don't know, weeks to put that all together, but I call it a digital atlas. And that's on my website. And so you could see an example of, and it's super easy to do. It just takes time. And so you're drawing the line, you're sourcing it from all the different parts of the web of where these things are. And so then when you visit an area like the Tetons for the first time, you're like, what is there to do? And then you have, these options. And so long as you know how to download to your phone, you can kind of navigate your way around. And then the crux is when to go, what are the conditions, and that's when your Avalanche center steps in to provide as much light as they can on the scenario, but with fully knowing that like avalanche or backcountry skiing is really dangerous. It's just, sometimes it's more dangerous, sometimes it's less dangerous.
Mark, I have a question for you. This could definitely be a can of worms, so hopefully there's maybe a way to give a little bit of a shortish answer. But once you've drawn a route on the map and you know your distance and elevation, any quick tips on estimating like how long that might take you to do like that route or the climb?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you have more of an engineer mind than me, it's called the Munter system, and there's a whole equation that you can go through. I don't like that, but that's a good Googleable term, the Munter equation. But like after doing all this route planning, I always just get up early anyways, like you just get up early and then you're back to the car sooner, or not, I mean, I'm never like trying to figure out a day and then I like start at this time because my route plan said to start now. I just start early, and then you can either finish late or finish sooner. But to maybe more specifically answer the question, you can ski downhill 15 or 20 times faster than you can ascend. So if let's say you're skiing up Mount St. Helens, it's just like you start here, you end here, you go down here. If it takes you 10 hours to get from the parking lot to the summit, it will take you, maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour to get down. That's for skinning. If you're boot packing, maybe it's longer. And maybe if you're boot packing or breaking trail in deeper snow, then that could be, it could be like a 30-to-1 ratio where it took us, whatever, 30 times longer to get up than to get down. Whereas hiking, it's about a 2-to-1 ratio in non-technical terrain. So if you're, if you hike up to a lake and it takes you 6 hours, it'll probably only take you 3 hours to get down. Okay, so yeah, Aaron's bringing up. So I just picked Mount St. Helens because it's like the most triangular shaped, boring mountain ever. It's just half a mountain. I mean, it's not, where did its top go?
Yeah, you had to be skiing before 1980 to have skied that.
Totally. So yeah, you go up, you go down, and you could call it 15x. And so what I like to do is I note the time, or even start a stopwatch at the trailhead, and then I can quickly say, hey, we've been going for X amount of time, and so what does that look like? And that's based on our fatigue level, our stoke. Do we do another lap? When do I need to be home to, relieve the babysitter, or whatever, wherever the case may be at work. And so that's why in that note on the skillet, I put 5.5 hours, because we forget, and so I'll sometimes drop a pin somewhere and be like 3.5 hours to this point. And then I don't have to remember that anymore. I'll just know that. There's been other instances where I'll say, I'll drop a pin where there's water. And so we're cruising along, and I can go from the parking lot to this point in this amount, whatever amount of time it is for a first water fill up. And then maybe I don't have to carry water from the car. I'll just drink a bunch of water, walk with an empty water bottle, and then fill up at that spot. Another example. And so having a rough time plan, it doesn't matter so much like how fast you are, just so long as you know what your progress is that day. Because sometimes you'll have skinny skis and you'll be feeling psyched, and your average climb per hour is a lot, and then you have the big powder boards and you're breaking trail, and that same equation just doesn't work. But on a general day, when I'm out with my wife and it's just the two of us and we're charging, it's like 1,800 feet an hour is a pretty good clip that I like to, can generally do most of the time. And then when there's a bigger group, it'll be slower. And when I'm guiding, it's probably like 900 to 1,000 feet an hour, something like that. So it's kind of a rant. But I actually need to sign off here in 2 minutes. So let me know, is there any more questions? Here, I'll put in the chat, everyone, if you have more questions, you can email me directly. And I'm happy to reach out, or you can check me out there too.
Thanks a ton, Mark. I really appreciate it. Aaron and Justin, are you guys gonna hang around for just a few more minutes?
Yeah, I'll see if there's any other questions. There are a couple other things I wanted to point out too, related to snow and backcountry ski features. So I'll run through those. Mark, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Great to get that anecdotal example with the skillet. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Have a good one, you guys.
See ya. Cool. Yeah, the two other things I wanted to point out real quick. So Snotel, whoops, sorry about that. If you double click on a point on the map, it zooms you in right there. So that's what you were seeing. But yeah, so Snotel, we rolled this out recently. I think it was about a month ago now. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with it, but I can't remember the number of stations, but they're federal weather stations that are, I think they're funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture to track water supply based on snowpack. And in this area, I'm only seeing anywhere there's this snowflake that's outlined in black as a Snotel station. And I'm sure if you go into the Sawtooth or somewhere else, you'll see them all over the place. But if you click on one of those, it's going to pull up really helpful information regarding snowfall, recent accumulation, the snow depth, the temperature. Some of them are equipped with a wind sensor as well. And then you can also look at the last 7 days. Clearly for avalanche mitigation and just knowing what you're getting into, this is incredibly useful. So the 7-day charts, they look like they might be a little buggy right now. They're still useful, but Justin and I will take a note that some of these numbers are overlaying on each other. But yeah, so it's showing you 7-day snow depth, what the temperatures were, and I'm sure Scott and Chris can speak to this much better than I, but certainly looking at rapid changes in temperature and how that impacts snow stability is a pretty important one. So that's helpful there. SWE, or snow water equivalent, which is telling you how dense the snow is, how much water is in that snowpack. Out west in the Sierra, we have really high SWE values, and you all are blessed to usually have much lighter snow and less water in there. And then wind as well. So pretty helpful feature as you're exploring where you want to go. Like some of the ranges have them just everywhere. I mean, you can see more snow tells kind of peppered up in here. And yeah, just getting a sense of how much snow and new snow is on the ground. So that was one thing.
Really quick, Aaron, if I can interrupt you.
Yeah, thanks.
Just like with our Avalanche Forecast information cards, you guys can scroll down on that info card for the SNOTELs and get the link straight to the SNOTEL site. So
Yes.
all the data on those graphs are the daily averages. But if you guys know you just had a large storm cycle and you're trying to see how quickly that loading came on and how fast that SWE came up, from here you can actually get hourly reports as well. So it takes a little bit of an extra step, but you can get some extra data from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin.
You guys, we had a question from the audience here, and yeah, this is a great question. Can you access the 3D mode on your on the mobile app, or is that only on the desktop?
Yes, and that's what I wanted to do with the last bit of time. I wanted to switch share mode and just show you all how that transfers over. So give me 1 second here. Justin, remind me, didn't we launch 3D on Android quite recently as well, or that's still?
Yeah, so it's
coming?
actually in the process of being rolled out right now. It'll be to 100% of Android users by Monday.
Sweet. So here we go. Are you guys seeing the phone view?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. Let me remember here really quick. Yeah, so when we launched Backcountry, 3D rolled out with web app and with iOS, and as Justin said, it's in the process of rolling out. So yes, all the information, as I mentioned early on, that like all the markups that you're creating in web app, or if you go to your phone first, you're laying horizontal on your couch, you want to do your planning that way. It'll also transfer over into the web app. And what you're seeing here on the on my phone screen with the dotted red and white line, that's the South Teton map that I saved at the beginning of the webinar. And I could like pull up all the other offline maps here as well. So there's South Teton, and then a bunch of my others. I'm based in Santa Cruz. These are almost all California locations. But for 3D, let's just look and see what that looks like here. So on your computer, you're going to be holding down Control and then using your mouse or trackpad. On your phone, you actually use 2 fingers to tilt and pinch and spin. But just to get a little more resolution there, so I'm going to go into the skillet and look at that there. Pretty neat. It's fun to hear Mark talk about this. I have not skied this line. It's been on my list for a long time. But yeah, so if we wanted to toggle on slope angle layer, it's right there as well. And let's see, well, it might take a second to load. Not sure why it's not loading, but it should. It may just be connection into Zoom, but all the same layers and everything. work the same way. Same with weather. You can pull up the point forecast by clicking on the weather icon. Let's see. Or you can drop a waypoint by holding it, tapping it, and then you can do all the same things we ran through there with your waypoint. Let me see if there's anything else to show you on phone. Yeah, you can switch between, the topo. Oh, the other thing about 3D on your phone is it only works in satellite mode, whereas on web map you can use 3D and topo, which is kind of nice. But yeah, here's the avalanche layers. Excuse me, avalanche forecast layer. And I'm going to turn that one off. Turn off trail slope and turn off public land. And I'm hoping I'm going to see slope angle load here at some point. Yeah, but you guys get the picture. So yes, long-winded answer to that question, Chris. You can access 3D on your phone.
While
Any
we're
other-
waiting to see if any of the audience has any more questions, I had one for you. Can you guys kind of outline any kind of future goals or plans you guys have for the app? Anything that's in the works that people would be psyched to hear about?
Yeah, one we're still working through, and we've gotten some feedback from National Avalanche Center and Sawtooth and a few of the others is so we want to be able to show avalanche observations and incidents on the map. Just more as like a safety warning that this slope has slid in the past. Obviously conditions can make that same slope stable if the right conditions align, but it's still a good heads up to users. And right now, let me switch back over to my desktop really quick. But yeah, you all might have been seeing, close this out. There are these icons that show a slide, and like an avalanche slide with it's actually a skull, and it's to symbolize fatality. So there actually was an avalanche fatality at this location. We debated like putting this on the map, but at the end of the day, we feel pretty strongly that it's a helpful safety symbol and resource for users. You can click into it's historic avalanche fatalities for the last 10 years. That data is aggregated by Colorado Avalanche Information Center, and you can click into that and read up on the incident. So we're looking to take that idea further and pull in observations and avalanche incidents throughout the country. And we'd be working with the avalanche centers to do that. So that's one thing. There's a bunch of stuff in the works for trail, and I guess for ski and snow. Yeah, when in the next couple weeks we're gonna have winter aerial. So right now we're looking at the Tetons, and there's a fair amount of snow showing up in 3D. But a lot of the ranges, like we were over at Mount St. Helens, didn't have any snow. You're going to be able to view all of your ski areas and backcountry ski zones with a winter area snow coverage here in the next 2 to 4 weeks, which we're pretty excited about.
Yeah, that'll be it. Will be an awesome feature. I look forward to that one for sure. See, we had a question from the audience. And this is a good question, I think, at least in my mind. I'm curious about the answer. Can you transfer a map or a track from one OnX user to another when you're like offline or out of a cell signal? So maybe you created a route and your partner doesn't have it and now you're out of cell service, can you give it to them? Like, I guess it would be like through Bluetooth or AirDrop on an Apple phone.
Justin, you want to field this one?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we're working on a couple different means of doing more or less buddy tracking, so offline sharing of locations and material. However, currently that's not supported unless you're using a device like Somewhere. Somewhere is like a satellite GPS. It works like a Garmin InReach, except it creates a cell signal for your phone. So effectively, you're using the satellite communications, but through your cell phone. And it's a monthly subscription service through the device, and in which case you could share those waypoints through that satellite connection.
But how about like say you just had like a track and you wanted to send that to your friend?
Yeah, so if you guys just have a track and you're not using a satellite communication device to create a cell service, unfortunately, that's not shareable and offline right now.
Okay. Then another question, if you're transitioning from Gaia to OnX, is it possible to import like your past or saved tracks in that direction? Yeah, I guess like in like a GPX format or something. Like,
yeah, so that's going to be the same process that Mark was talking about earlier, where you find that GPX file. The difference with this one is going to be it's a GPX file that you've created. So from within Gaia or whichever other service you're using, you can export those as either a GPX or KML file. And then through the web map, and actually, Aaron, if you want to go through that over in the My Content menu there,
yep,
you can click on My Content and then click on your all content or the particular content type that you're going to be importing. And then down on the bottom, you'll have this import button, and you can import your GPX or KML files from there.
Yeah, we know that's a bit of a pain point, even for users that are like really excited to try out backcountry. They're like, oh, I've invested a lot of time. I've got all this data and history with Gaia. So we're looking at ways to make it even easier to like bulk import content. So yeah, stay tuned. We hope to have something more there to share. But right now, as Justin just explained, it is the approach.
and see, I had a question. You mentioned early on about OnX off-road. Is that just for summer use, or does that have like a winter kind of motorized use component?
Yeah, it has a snow mode as well. A lot of the same features that are in backcountry. So you can toggle between snow and dirt essentially for off-road. And the snow feature is really like it's tailored for snowmobiling and winter motorized travel. So it has snowmobile roads and trails throughout the country, and it labels them as open or closed and provides some other information, as well as like rich content or more like guidebook oriented content for snowmobile trails.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's called OnX off-road, as Chris just mentioned. Yeah, backcountry is really intended for human powered. I mean, clearly you can use it for snowmobiling too. Like we have the purple trails show up here, like you see them over here. And those are snow trails as well, but it's just a little more specific to the snowmobile use case and off-road.
Does the off-road offer like some of the slope angle shading or anything like that?
It does, both
Okay.
slope angle and avalanche forecast.
Cool. Yeah, no more questions here from the audience. You guys, anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap up?
I think just from like personal experience, I'm getting almost like equal amount of use in the planning and then like out in the field. But like it's amazing how deep you can go with planning with these tools and then sharing it with your trip partners and your ski partners and getting feedback before you ever even step foot out on the trail or put your skins on. But it's a great tool in the field as well. So yeah, psyched you guys were interested in learning a little bit more about it. Please keep in mind that if you purchase the app, it's $29.99 a year. We offer a 20% discount, but an additional 20% will go back to Sawtooth Abbey and support them. So, we're obviously encouraging folks to buy. We want to support the Avi centers.
I think all your planning resources you have are awesome. I'm a firm believer that, going out into the backcountry with a good plan to set yourself up for success can prevent a lot of accidents. So in our education, we are definitely really pushing for people to make a good plan before they head out. And this seems like a great resource for doing that. So awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, it's nice to have something that's so oriented towards being in the backcountry with all the data you guys have thrown on there. It's kind of a nice one-stop shop to get you in the right direction.
If you don't have anything else you want to demo, Aaron, I'll throw that QR code back up for everybody for that 20% off and 1-month trial.
Awesome, Justin. Yeah, I think I'm done. Thanks everyone for listening, and hope you get some fun turns out there soon.
Yeah, thank you guys all so much for being here. And Justin's going to throw up this QR code if you want to take advantage of that. Otherwise, we'll leave this up for a few minutes. Thank you guys all for attending. Pray for snow and stay safe out there. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
And if anybody's running into issues with that QR code, I can get you guys just a regular hyperlink for that as well.
Oh, thanks a ton, Justin. I think we're gonna wrap this up, and appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your season.
Yeah, and we appreciate the support from OnX too. That's much appreciated.
Oh, thank you guys. We without groups like you guys, none of us would be out there, at least not as safe.
Well, enjoy the rest of your winter.
You too.
Thanks.